my friends, happy Friday and welcome to another video. I hope you are doing really well. Now fear not, this video is not going to be me sitting here blabbing for 25 minutes without moving. I am going to take you to the barn and spend some time with Merlin. But before we head out to the barn to see Merlin, I want to paint you a picture, so to speak. So imagine this, you're sitting at home in May of 2020 in the middle of the first COVID lockdown. You haven't been allowed out to your riding stable for about 2 months and you've been thinking for a while about getting a horse a little bit further down the line. Out of curiosity, you text your trainer to inquire about the general cost of board and kind of general horse maintenance per year, just so you can get an idea of what you might be getting into, again, further down the line. And when you do so, you inquire about the 2 foals who had been born on the farm the year before, one of whom you had had a special spot in your heart for. It so happens that as you are texting your trainer, she is out in the foal's field trying to get some trot video of the one that you had a soft spot for a lady who would be making a decision about whether or not to buy him that evening. And you have a little panic moment and think, oh my God, I love him so much. This could literally be the horse of my dreams. You chat with your coach and the horse's breeder, and you have a realization that you have a once in a lifetime opportunity in front of you to own the horse of your dreams if you just take it. But there are a lot of things standing in your way, namely money. But you take the plunge, you work out a payment plan, and 3 hours after that initial text to your trainer, you're on your way out to the farm for the first time in 2 months as a horse owner for the first time in 10 years. Now, this story probably sounds a bit wild and unbelievable, but it's the story of how I came to own my now 4-year-old Oldenburg gelding, Merlin, who, if you are a regular viewer of my videos, you will be very familiar with because he is the backbone of this YouTube channel. In the nearly 3.5 years that I've owned him, there's been times where I've questioned my sanity in buying such a young horse and in taking on that responsibility. And I've actually already made a video a few months ago about responsible horse ownership. But today I want to reflect on the experience and the realities, my experience and my realities of buying a young horse with just a little bit of hindsight. You know, he's now decently into his riding career. He's been under saddle now for about a year. And I feel like I have some interesting perspectives to share that I might not have had this time last year or the year before. And what kind of prompted this video is that back in May, I posted a reel on Instagram, which kind of went viral, like viral for me. It got like 100, well, between May and now, it's gotten like 120-ish thousand views. It caused a lot of people to join my Instagram account. I think 400 plus people, which is absolutely insane. And this reel kind of highlighted one of the main things that some people told me when I bought a foal, which is that you're not going to be able to ride him for, you know, X number of years. Since I posted that reel, it kind of got me thinking about making this video. So I'm dressed for the barn in my retired racehorse project long sleeve. We're going to go out and we're going to tack Merlin up and we're going to take him for a hack, and I thought that we would chat along the way. Now, because this is the internet, I feel like I have to add a disclaimer onto this. So it goes without saying that I don't regret buying a foal at all, and I've had no issues based on my experience. But there are some general warnings and disclaimers that I would take into consideration before you even think about buying a foal. The first is don't buy a foal as your first horse. The second is don't buy a foal if you have little to no experience with young horses. Thirdly, don't buy a foal if you don't have lots of time to dedicate to it. Do your best to remember that horses are the product of the people that they come into contact with, and that well-handled young horses become well-adjusted members of society. But poorly handled young horses can become what some would call problem horses. And last but not least, don't buy a foal if you don't have a good team of people behind you. It could be a very hard thing to do on your own. When they say it takes a village to raise a young horse, that statement rings true. So with those disclaimers out of the way, let's get into the meat and bones of the video, which is my perspective on buying a foal 3 years later.
Are you having a munch on the good stuff while the hayfield is cut? Huh? The
Sandring's full of good grass. Oh my god, guys, our hayfield has been cut. This is a site that we've all been waiting to see for ages. You see that? Beautifully cut field. We've had like the weirdest summer ever for weather. So normally first cut hay here is done like June, July. This year we had so much rain in July that the hay cutting schedule was put back because there wasn't enough dry days in between rain to get hay cut, raked, baled, and put away. It's nearly September. It's September tomorrow and the hayfield is only getting cut now, but there was a risk for a bit that it wouldn't get cut at all. So soon enough I'll be able to take Merlin and Eve out riding in that beautiful, beautiful 30-acre hayfield, which I'm super excited about. But right now what I've got to do is get Merlin's group moved back into their regular field so that I can take him on a hack. So the thing that I'm most proud of in my journey with Merlin so far, without a doubt, is the relationship and connection that we've built with each other over the last 4 years. Because we spent so long getting to know each other outside of a riding environment, I feel that our level of trust in each other had a huge... Really? I feel that our level of trust in each other had a huge impact on the success story. I like to think that was our starting him under saddle last year, and in the leaps and bounds that we've made since. I think that knowing a horse to the level that I know Merlin gives me an inherent advantage when working with him. Because I know his body language so well, I can pretty accurately predict how he might react in certain situations and do my best to set him up for success in every scenario. Now, sometimes, you know, despite best efforts, things happen, and there's a video that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks that shows that. But in general, I think that I do a pretty good job of knowing my horse and using that to my advantage in a training situation. And outside of riding, the relationship that we've built has been the best kind of therapy that I could ask for. You know, he comes to greet me when he sees me coming. He does things for me that I wouldn't even think about asking much older, much more experienced horses that I know less well. He never fails to put a smile on my face when I'm feeling down, and overall, he's my best friend. Aren't you? Are you the best boy? My sweet man, aren't you? You eat my hair, I'm gonna be very mad. I tell you, the things that I do to be able to take him hacking so that he's not only riding in the arena. This is the Amigo Fly Rider. I bought it for him as a 3-year-old. This is a size large and it fits perfectly fine in the neck. Kind of have to jerry rig it a little bit because I have a monoflap, but it is getting a little bit tight in the bum. Something tells me that before long I will be selling this and buying him an extra large next year. Now, my friends, the question is, are we going to go through the scary culvert into the back, even though this is literally his field? When it's muddy, he's not a fan. Oh, good man, what a good boy. So the hayfield's just been cut, but we're lucky that we can still ride in, this is Merlin's like grass field. We can still ride in here while we're waiting for it to be baled and for the grass to grow a little bit. Can't we? A very, very, very good boy who just walk trotted and cantered in the backfield for the first time. He's done it in the hayfield, but not the backfield. Very proud. What a good man. And oh my goodness, now that was a beneficial workout both for his brain and his body, which brings me to my second point. I think a lot of people who have foals or have had foals will tell you that one of the biggest advantages is having the ability to make the big decisions over pretty much every single aspect of their training. Sometimes when you buy a young horse at, say, like 3 or 4 years old, they have been started under saddle, or they've had some training methods used on them that you might not agree with, or they may have been pushed harder than you would have preferred. And in buying a foal, you get the opportunity to truly take things at your own pace, bringing your horse along at a speed that works for you. You have the comfort of knowing and in some ways controlling how they are treated from a very young age to help ensure that they become outstanding members of society and a horse whose personality and temperament in some ways is going to be a good match for you. Because as I've said, horses in a lot of ways are the product of the people that they come into contact with and the training methods that are used on them. I'm not saying that genetics and, you know, natural personality doesn't play a role, but the way that they are raised definitely plays a huge factor into how they end up as an adult. Merlin was 11 months old when I bought him, but I was really lucky in that he was born at the farm where I ride. He was born in July of 2019 and I started riding here in January of that year. So I was pretty involved with him from a very young age, because that summer and into the fall I was doing a sort of working student thing where I was coming out one day a week during the week and then one day on the weekend and helping out with chores in exchange for riding lessons and riding different horses. From the time he was a very young baby, I'm saying like a couple weeks old, he did spend the first couple weeks of his life in the vet hospital for a hernia. But anyways, from the time that he was a couple of weeks old, I was doing things like just going and spending time with them, picking up his feet, things like that. So not everybody gets that chance with whatever foal they end up buying, and I know I'm very lucky, but I've been able to see firsthand how the way that they're handled from a young age can impact the horse that they turn into. Now this is what Bailey from Joyful Dressage on Instagram would call the grass tax, something that all equestrians must pay to their faithful steeds. And the last big point that I want to make, because obviously like all of these big points I'm making have dozens and dozens and dozens of sub points, is that when you buy especially a foal, I mean this kind of applies to young horses in general, but with Merlin I found it rings even more true, is that the little wins feel huge. I think in the horse world, especially online, it can be really easy to feel pressured to move on to the next big milestone or to rush your horse along, or always be focusing on what's next rather than being present in the moment and appreciating the little wins as they happen. And this doesn't just apply to young horses, I think it applies to older, more seasoned horses as well. But when you buy a foal, you're kind of doing everything from scratch. So literally every single little thing, from first time that they do a really good job picking up their feet to teaching them to lead, every little step in their training feels like a huge win. Every first with Merlin that we continue to have, like he's still young enough that there are still tons of firsts that we're having. For me, every single one has brought me so much joy. You know, from his first time being led by himself in the indoor arena, to his first time on long lines, to his first time being put out in the big herd, to his first ride, like everything has such a strong place in my memory, and I'll never forget the lessons that I've learned from bringing him along. And to build on the first point that I made, to experience all these firsts together helps to build on that trust and build the relationship that is so wonderful and that I prize so much. Doing things properly and raising him, helping to raise him from a foal and then bringing him along since I bought him at 11 months old has really made me appreciate how long proper training takes, and that shortcuts really do set you back in the long run. I've realized that if you do it properly from the beginning, you won't have to spend their prime years addressing gaps in their training that shouldn't be there in the first place. And I guess I'll make a fourth kind of main point that kind of goes along with my last one, is that it's just such a rewarding experience if you are in it for the relationship with the horse as a priority over the riding. Buying a foal is such a wonderful thing because I felt a bigger sense of accomplishment from all the things that I've done with Merlin, even outside of riding, as compared to when I was a teenager and I jumped my first 3-foot course for the first time, or when I went on, did my first little bits of cross-country jumping. Like, all those kind of riding achievements pale in comparison to, you know, teaching him to long line or starting him under saddle myself, taking him on hand walk hacks as a 2-year-old. Like, it just, all those things to me are so much more important now. Now, I suppose I've been talking up buying a foal for the last little bit. I should mention the one con that I've had is that with foals especially, even more so than yearlings or 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds, vet checks aren't always conclusive, and injuries or things can pop up that wouldn't have shown up on a PPE. So for example, 2 months after I bought Merlin, some OCD lesions developed that required removal through a pretty expensive, like $5,000 plus surgery, which is not quite, but nearly what I paid for him. And it's just a risk that you're taking on when you do buy a horse that's so young, is recognizing that some developmental things can happen that could cost you some money. Oh my God, these bugs are driving me nuts. Before you even get to the point where you could even consider starting them under saddle. But on the flip side of that, if it works out well and they don't have any developmental things like that, buying a foal or a yearling is for some the only way that they can afford to buy a certain caliber of horse. There are lots of pros and cons, but for me, a lot of it has been more like relationship and connection based. This, you know, is not conclusive. It's my perspective. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this video and want to see more kind of talky videos like this, it's been a while since I've done one, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, comment down below, give me a thumbs up, and if you want to be notified every time that I post a new video, turn your notifications on by hitting the bell. These bugs are driving me nuts. I'm gonna go in. Until next time, I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. Don't forget to give your horse or pony a hug or a kiss the next time you see them, and I will see you next time. Bye. Oh, I can't believe I did that all in one breath.